Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you let your thoughts slip like soft ribbons into the dark expanse of the unknown. A faint ticking clock hums somewhere behind you, a slow reminder of time's fragile rhythm. The room smells faintly of salt, as if the ocean has followed you indoors. You can almost hear it, a distant hush of waves against invisible shores. There's a glint of moonlight on the edge of your mind, cool and elusive. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed. So, before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Syphoria, only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And tell me, where are you listening from? What time is it in your corner of the restless world? Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift over a sea that doesn't feel entirely real. It ripples not just with water, but with whispers, stories that seem older than language. They speak of a god who refused to stay still, who shifted like a thought you couldn't quite hold, like a memory dissolving the moment you try to recall it. His name is Proteus, the old man of the sea. Not grand like Poseidon, not wrathful like Zeus, but elusive, infinitely elusive. You can almost see him now, half hidden by a veil of mist. His hair is like sea foam, his skin the color of wet stone. But even as you focus, he changes. His form blurs, stretches, bends. One moment he's an old man with eyes clouded like deep water. The next he's a fish darting into the shadows. Then a lion with a salt-slick mane. Then a serpent coiled and hissing in silence. Nothing is fixed. You hear a soft echo in your mind, almost like Nietzsche murmuring. There are no facts, only interpretations. This god never waits for you. He's always slipping away, like a dream when you wake. And yet, if you hold him, if you dare endure his wild transformations without flinching, he will speak truths no mortal is meant to know. He will tell you the future. He will whisper where you belong. You feel your own body sway gently, as if floating. Notice your breath now, slow, quiet, resting at the surface of your awareness, like a boat that doesn't want to drift too far. Proteus lived in the hidden places of the sea, among seals and silent currents, bound by a strange duty. He had to reveal the truth, but only if captured, and that paradox haunted him. He was free only in escape, yet his essence was in being caught. Historians still argue whether this myth came from a forgotten pre-Greek god of nature, or if it was a poetic metaphor for the way knowledge itself resists possession. There's something familiar in that, isn't there? How your own mind sometimes feels like a Protean sea. Try to hold one thought, just one, and it shifts, melts, becomes another. Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life." Perhaps Proteus was the unconscious of the ocean itself, endlessly shifting to avoid being seen. You sense the water growing colder now. The waves murmur against an invisible shore. Somewhere a mortal is approaching the god's resting place, knowing that to touch him is to endure fear. But for now you remain still, feeling the wet breath of the myth around you. You hover closer to that shifting shoreline, where the waves seem to exhale secrets. The smell of brine is heavier now, mingling with something faintly metallic, like forgotten coins in the depths of a fountain. There, among the lapping seals and quiet rock pools, Proteus waits. Or rather, he almost waits, because even stillness for him is never truly still. You see him again, half human, half something else, gazing toward the horizon with eyes that have seen every storm but belong to none. He senses the mortal coming. In the myths, it is often Menelaus, the Spartan king, desperate for answers after the Trojan War, who dares to grip the god. But it could be anyone. It could be you. The trick is patience. Proteus doesn't simply give away the future. He resists with everything he has. His body writhes into 1,000 shapes, terrifying, strange. He becomes water, then flame, then a beast with too many teeth. If you flinch, even for a heartbeat, he slips away. It reminds you of your own restless thoughts at night. Try to hold one long enough and it rebels. The mind becomes a chameleon, darting into endless forms to avoid your grip. Psychology even has a name for this: cognitive avoidance, when the psyche shapeshifts into distraction rather than face what is true. Truth is not for the faint, whispers an echo you can't place. Maybe it's your own voice. Maybe it's his. The myth says Proteus was shepherd to Poseidon's seals. Think of that, this god of infinite forms, tending quiet animals in a hidden cove. It's strangely humble, isn't it? And yet there's something chilling about it too, like a reminder that even the most powerful forces often dwell in silence, unnoticed. Your breath is slowing again. Feel it now, a soft inhale, the coolness at the tip of your nose, the weightless pause before the warm exhale. Let it be easy. The mortal approaches. He has hidden himself among the seals, covering his scent, his fear. Proteus senses him, but does not move. The mortal must wait for the god to sleep, to let his guard down. There is a lesson here, soft but sharp. You cannot force revelation. You can only wait quietly until the moment opens itself. Historians still debate whether Proteus was always meant to be a trickster. Was he a god of prophecy punished for his knowledge, or merely a metaphor for the sea's unknowability? There's no clear answer, which feels fitting. He is the embodiment of ambiguity. You recall faintly Jung's notion of the shadow, how the parts of yourself you deny are the ones that take the strangest forms. Could it be that Proteus is simply the sea's shadow, or even your own? When you try to seize truth, it resists, wriggles, demands you endure discomfort. Hold me, says an inner whisper, and you will see. And so the mortal lunges finally, grasping Proteus in a desperate clutch. Instantly, the god's form convulses. Man becomes lion. Lion becomes serpent. Serpent becomes a torrent of water rushing through unprepared hands. He screams, he writhes, he burns, he freezes. Anything to escape. And still, the mortal does not let go. You feel the tension in your own body now, your hands almost aching in sympathy. Notice it, then release it. Your fingers, your shoulders, let them soften. Some say this story is a metaphor for self-knowledge. To hold Proteus is to hold your own truth as it resists you. It will not come gently. It will try to scare you away, to convince you to loosen your grip. But if you endure, if you stay, you will finally hear the prophecy. Proteus begins to tire. The shifts come slower now, the transformations less violent. The god sighs like a storm ending. He has been caught. He must speak. What will he reveal? You feel the air still, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Proteus has stopped resisting. His body no longer churns between monstrous forms. It slumps. Fluid but finally still, like the sea after a violent squall. His voice comes low, resonant, as though it rises from the ocean floor rather than his lips. The mortal waits, tense but quiet, afraid to miss even a syllable. And so do you. He speaks of things hidden beneath the surface, of fates already woven, of journeys that must be endured whether you wish them or not. In the myth, Proteus tells Menelaus how to appease the gods and sail home from Troy, but also of those lost forever, Ajax the Lesser, swallowed by the sea, Agamemnon, doomed by his wife's rage. Knowledge comes as both gift and burden. It's curious, isn't it? You crave answers, but when they come, they rarely soothe. Psychology has a similar paradox. Carl Rogers once noted that the facts are friendly, yet we still fear them. Sometimes what is true feels unbearable in the moment, though liberating later. You let your breath deepen again. Inhale. Notice the slight rise of your chest, the soft stretch in your ribs. Exhale slowly, like waves retreating on wet sand. Proteus whispers of the deep currents that shape the world unseen. He speaks of patterns that even gods cannot undo. And yet you sense an odd kindness beneath his words, as if he is relieved to share the weight of what he knows. There's a peculiar anecdote tucked inside this myth, one the old storytellers sometimes left out. In a few rare versions, Proteus, after revealing his prophecy, would quietly offer a second, smaller truth. Something personal, something private. Not grand destiny, but a secret about the one who held him. Some say he revealed a hidden fear they didn't know they carried. Others, a memory long buried. Imagine that, being forced to confront a part of yourself you didn't even know was missing. You feel that same flicker of unease now. If you ask Proteus a question about your future, about your own shadow, would you really want the answer? Historians still argue whether Proteus was originally a sea deity at all, or simply a poetic stand-in for the concept of elusive truth. Homer calls him Old Man of the Sea, but later texts barely mention his name. He drifts in and out of myth like a mirage. Maybe that's why he's so haunting. He's not fixed, even in the stories meant to define him. Nothing is permanent, Nietzsche once said, not even the self. And here you are, staring at the embodiment of impermanence, a god who is never quite what you think he is. The mortal listens, silent. He does not speak. He only waits for the truth to finish unraveling. When Proteus has said all he must, he doesn't fight. He doesn't rage. He simply melts back into the sea, dissolving into foam like a memory you can't hold on to. He leaves no gratitude, no farewell, just absence. The mortal is left standing on the shore, heavy with knowledge he didn't fully want, but now cannot forget. You wonder if he feels lighter or heavier, both perhaps. Notice your body again, how your breath has become slower, more velvety. Let your jaw unclench. Allow your eyelids to grow heavy, even if you keep them open. You are safe here, suspended between thought and dream. And yet, there is a ripple in your mind, a curiosity. Proteus may be gone, but the sea remains. What other gods might lurk beneath its surface? What other truths still wait to be pulled into the air? Some say Proteus was only one fragment of the ocean's voice, the most elusive but not the most powerful. Others claim he learned his shape-shifting from something older, something deeper. The sea, after all, never ends with a single wave. You step closer to the shoreline. The water laps gently now, deceptively calm. But you know better. Beneath that silver skin lies 1,000 hidden movements. You can almost hear them. And you wonder, if the god who resisted truth could finally be held, what about the others? You linger on the shoreline, and the sea feels heavier than before, as if it remembers what just transpired. Proteus is gone, yes, but the water itself seems to breathe in slow tides, pulling you closer, like a hand you cannot see. And now the story drifts deeper, past what mortals can grasp easily. For the ocean holds not one secret, but layers upon layers. The Greeks believed it was a realm of gods who never walked Olympus, quieter but no less potent. You've already glimpsed one of them, Proteus, elusive and restless. But have you wondered why he tried so hard to escape? You let the question settle like silt. Inhale deeply. Feel the coolness in your nostrils, the expansion in your chest. Exhale. Let it spill from you like dark water returning to the sea. They say Proteus learned his shape-shifting from something even older than him, the primal chaos of the sea itself. Before names, before myths, there was the restless surge of formlessness. Humans later gave it faces and titles, because how else can you speak to something infinite? But even gods are sometimes trapped by what they serve. Perhaps that's why Proteus feared capture. Not because he hated mortals, but because to be fixed, even for a moment, was a betrayal of his nature. In psychology, there's a similar phenomenon called the false self. Donald Winnicott described it as the mask we create to survive, the roles we play so others can recognize us. But underneath, there's something ungraspable, fluid, resistant to definition. Isn't that Proteus? Isn't that you? You let the idea glide through your thoughts like a shadowy fish, too quick to fully catch. There's an odd anecdote about an ancient philosopher. Some say it was Heraclitus, though the record is unclear. He once sat by a river for days, staring into the water, refusing to move. When a curious passerby asked what he sought, he simply said, "I am waiting for the same river twice." Of course, it never came. The water changed each moment, as did he. The truth was that both river and man were never the same thing at all. That's the sea god's paradox. He is endless change, but also ancient memory. You sense it now, the way the ocean seems to carry echoes of every story, every sorrow. And yet it remains, always shifting, never fixed. Historians argue whether Proteus was a minor deity or an archetype smuggled into myth from older, pre-Greek traditions. Was he a personification of the sea's unpredictable moods? Or a metaphor for fate itself, always moving, always elusive? No one agrees, and perhaps that's fitting. How do you pin down the unpinnable? Truth is a moving target, Jung once said. A mirror that shifts as you stare. You close your eyes briefly and feel your body sink a little deeper into the moment. Shoulders soften, tongue rests gently in your mouth, breath slows, like soft waves licking the shore. The mortal who captured Proteus, Menelaus, now walks away, burdened with divine instructions and a strange hollow in his soul. He knows what he must do to return home, yet the cost of knowing is its own kind of exile. And you can't help but imagine what it would feel like to hold a god that doesn't want to be held, to wrestle with something that slips through every definition, every grip. Would you feel triumph? Or would you feel a strange shame for stopping what was meant to move? The sea stretches endlessly before you. You notice how its surface seems calm now, but your skin prickles as if it's aware of deeper presences below. There are other deities, other whispers hidden in those depths. Nereus, the old man of the sea before Proteus, Triton with his conch shell horn, and beyond them, darker names that mortal tongues barely dared speak. If Proteus is the one who escapes, what of the one who never emerges at all? You lean forward slightly, listening. Somewhere faintly, you imagine hearing a hum beneath the tide. It could be the wind, or it could be the voice of something older, waiting. And it strikes you. This is what myths do. They pull you closer, then stop, leaving a quiet space for your own fears and desires to echo. Take another breath. Feel the gentle weight of your body. Loosen your hands if they've curled. You're safe still. And yet, you sense there's more. The sea hasn't finished speaking. You stand at the edge of the surf, feeling the ocean's pulse like a slow ancient heartbeat beneath your bare feet. The water curls around your ankles, retreating and returning, like a whisper that doesn't quite form into words. Proteus may be gone for now, but the myth lingers, and with it, the haunting sense that the sea still holds more than it reveals. And tonight, you let yourself drift even deeper, into the secrets beneath secrets. The Greeks told of how Proteus was not the only master of shifting forms. There were others, far older, woven into the fabric of the sea itself. Before the Olympians, before even the Titans, there were primordial forces with no faces, no temples. Thalassa, the spirit of the sea. Pontus, the fathomless deep. They were the waters that existed before life, before memory, and it is from them, they say, that Proteus inherited his gift and his curse. You take a slow breath in, feeling the ribs expand softly, and let it out like a sigh that disappears into the air. Do you remember the story of the empty chair from Gestalt therapy? You picture yourself speaking to an invisible presence, asking it questions you've long avoided. In that exercise, the unseen figure sometimes answers back, not with words, but with truths you didn't expect. Standing here by the sea feels eerily similar. You could ask the water anything. The only danger is that it might answer. There's an ambiguity scholars still debate. Was Proteus punished for his evasiveness, or was evasion itself his duty? Some say he fled mortals because they were not meant to know what lay ahead. Others claim he ran simply because he could, because running was the nature of something that belonged to no one. Which feels truer to you? You look out over the horizon, where the moonlight smears across the waves like silver paint. It feels infinite, but also strangely close, as if you could step into it and vanish. Nothing rests, Heraclitus once wrote. Everything flows. And you think of Menelaus again, clutching the answers he wrung from the reluctant god. Did they truly bring him peace? Or did they weigh heavier than his ignorance? There's a quiet, ironic humor in that. Chasing truth, only to find it doesn't feel like you hoped. Take another breath now. Slow, deliberate. Notice how your shoulders sink with the exhale. Let your jaw soften, unclench. You remember how Proteus, when caught, transformed into fire, into water, into a lion, into a tree, all forms that were real, yet none that were truly him. And what about you? How many shapes have you taken for others? A dutiful child, a careful friend, a silent observer? Which of those is closest to your essence? Or have you never been still long enough to know? The myth folds back into itself like a wave. Proteus doesn't give you clarity. He gives you a mirror that ripples. Maybe that's the point. An ancient sailor's tale surfaces in your mind. It was said that if you listened to the sea at night, truly listened, you could hear whispers of the future. Not clear prophecies, just fragments, like broken shells on the shore. But they came at a cost. The more you heard, the more you lost your sense of the present. The sailor who claimed this said he couldn't even remember his own name after a while. He became like the god himself, adrift, untethered. You glance down at the dark water, half expecting it to shift into something else. A glinting eye, a writhing serpent, a reflection that isn't your own. But it only laps gently, as if amused by your nerves. Historians, of course, will argue that Proteus was a narrative device, a way to explain the unknowable. Tides, storms, fate, a symbol, not a being. But myth resists neat conclusions. Perhaps the sea god is more real in your imagination than in any old text. Perhaps the story matters because it still stirs something restless in you. You take another breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs. Let it drift out slowly, like mist dissolving over the water. And then, quietly, you sense it, a deeper presence. As though Proteus was only the beginning, only a door. Beyond him lies something vaster, something even he feared, a shadow in the deep, patient and still. Not a god who escapes, but a god who waits. The ocean hushes like it's holding its breath. And you realize you're about to step into the final layer of the myth. One last tide to follow. The air feels heavier now, like the moment before a storm breaks. You sense the sea drawing you in, not with force, but with the quiet persistence of a dream you can't shake. Each wave that creeps toward your feet feels slightly warmer, as though the water remembers you. Proteus was only the surface, wasn't he? A ripple, a distraction. The true mystery lies deeper, beneath the layers of myth that mortals were allowed to glimpse. And now you're moving toward it, almost unconsciously, like a moth toward dim light. You close your eyes and breathe in, slow, through the nose. Hold for just a beat. Exhale like you're releasing a secret you've been keeping too long. There's an ancient story, one less told. They say there was a shape the sea god never chose to become. Not fire, not beast, not tree. He avoided the form of stillness, because in stillness, there's no escape, no movement, no disguise. And maybe that was the truest version of him. Silence, still water, the moment the ocean looks like glass and yet holds 1,000 unseen currents below. It reminds you of that psychological exercise where you're told to sit perfectly still and focus on a single thought. Inevitably, the thought slips. Other ideas surface, fragments of memory, emotion, longing, all shifting like Proteus himself. And in that moment, you realize how hard it is to meet yourself without distraction. Historians still argue whether Proteus was benevolent or cruel. Was his refusal to speak a mercy, protecting mortals from knowledge they couldn't handle? Or was it indifference, the cold detachment of something beyond human care? No one agrees. Maybe no one should. The waves hum their answer in whispers you can't quite catch. Truth is a deep sea, Nietzsche said, and when you look too long, it looks back. Your gaze drifts beyond the horizon now, where the night sky bleeds into the vast, endless black. You think of how sailors once feared falling off the edge of the world, how they believed the ocean hid monsters at its borders. Maybe those monsters were never teeth and claws, but ideas too big for fragile minds. You let your shoulders drop with another exhale, feel the weight lifting, like the tide pulling something from you. A final anecdote lingers. A lost mariner who claimed he met Proteus on a moonless night. The god took the shape of the man himself, identical in every way. And in that mirror, the sailor saw all the choices he could have made but didn't. They say he returned to shore but never spoke again. What he saw, he carried silently until the end. You wonder briefly if you'd want that kind of reflection. Would you hold it, or would it slip through your fingers like salt water? The ocean sighs again, a reminder that it's both cradle and grave, beginning and end. And in this moment, you feel yourself dissolve, not in fear, but in release, like you are neither separate from it nor entirely part of it. You are simply flowing. Take one more deep breath. In, out. Feel how soft your body has become. Let the last traces of tension sink like pebbles to the sea floor. Proteus, the escaping god, no longer needs to flee. He is here, in this stillness, in the knowing that some truths can't be held. They can only be touched briefly, like a wave against your hand. And as you stand in this in-between place, where myth and memory blur, the water begins to calm. The shapes you feared have faded. There is only the sea, endless and quiet, holding all the secrets it always has. And perhaps that is the lesson. Not to catch the god, not to force the answers, but to let them flow past, to listen without needing to own. The night stretches on, the tide moves in slow rhythm, and you simply breathe. So now gently step away from the shoreline in your mind. Feel the sand under your feet grow lighter, the air warmer, more familiar. You're no longer searching for the god who shifts away. You're simply carrying the echo of the ocean with you, its vastness, its calm, its refusal to be fully known. Let your body settle wherever it is now. Notice the stillness of the room around you. If there's a fan, hear its soft hum. If there's silence, let it wrap around you like a blanket. Think of how Proteus became everything and nothing at once, how he escaped not out of cruelty, but out of nature, and how sometimes the things you chase don't need to be caught to teach you what you came for. Your breath drifts in and out without effort, slow, gentle, as natural as the tide itself. And as you let go of the story, let go of the sea, you also let go of the day. Whatever questions you hold, they don't need answers tonight. They can rest just as you will. You are safe. You are calm. You are floating on the quiet surface of your own thoughts. The ocean recedes, leaving only peace.